Hi there. Today, let's take a look at how to create maturity models. Maturity models, as you know, are a pretty powerful tool for consultants as well as change makers within any organization who are trying to do a gap analysis with where they are today and where they need to be. Evalinator provides you a platform to not only create your own maturity model, but also track progress jointly with either your clients or your stakeholders, and then showcase the value delivered at every step. So you do an assessment today, you decide your maturity level, you set goals using Evalinator of what the next step should be, how the transformation journey should look like. So you set goals, you track those goals, and maybe at the next milestone, which could be 3 months, 60 days, 6 months, whatever you decide to be the next step, you can then do a before after analysis to see where your maturity was on a particular dimension and where you are now. So that's essentially what Evalinator does. And today I'm going to show you, we've got multiple templates available. And today I'm going to show you how to create a simple maturity model. And the template that I'm going to use is a digital maturity assessment. So there are multiple templates available as I'm going to show you. But just for the sake of simplicity, digital maturity is typically well known. So I'm going to show you what a digital maturity assessment template looks like, what could be some of the ways you could enhance it, and how can you use it. So, and then that should give you a clear idea of how to create a maturity model on your own topic using Evalinator. So I log in. This is the account that we are logged in. So of course, as you see, there are some separate templates. But the first thing that you would do after you log in, and of course, you're going to create an account. There's a 2-week free trial, of course. And that's after you subscribe. That's when you come into your dashboard, and then you hit this button right here, create assessment. And you'll see there are multiple templates available. Scrolling down, for coaches, there are multiple templates for coaches available. But today we are interested in maturity models. So let's go down, and you can see we've got several assessments for consultants here, or consultants or functional, change agents in an enterprise. So this is our template, assess your digital maturity. And there are some other ones, blockchain use case assessment. A lot of people are struggling with, is blockchain right for them? So they can use this assessment. Enterprise architecture maturity assessment, cloud maturity assessment, data analytics assessment, and so on. And they all follow a simple pattern, so they've got multiple rating levels, just like the capability maturity model, level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4, and level 5 of your maturity. You can decide to do more or less levels. And then, of course, there are multiple dimensions on which you assess a capability. So let's, for the sake of simplicity, let's just go ahead and view this. Say, for example, let's just view this template, so what it looks like. So what it does is, so you see that it has 3 levels here: nascent, evolving, and mature. We could have 5 levels as well. And then it covers various dimensions: technology infrastructure, your data management, operations, organization's culture, and so on. So let's see how we could, create one of them. So let's go here, and let's just say use template. So all you have to do is come inside. If you want to model your assessment after any of these 5 templates so far, you can just click use template and get going with refining and customizing them. If not, you can obviously create from scratch, and the process is going to be pretty similar. Create from scratch also gives you a model template. It obviously doesn't have content in it, but gives you predefined questions, predefined rating bands, some dimensions, which you can edit on the fly and get your assessment ready. So for the sake of simplicity, we are going to go into the digital maturity template. So let's click just use template. Let's create that. So digital maturity. Just continue. And now what it's doing is it's taking that model template and creating an assessment in your account. So it's created this account, created this model assessment template in my account, for example. So let me go back to dashboard. And you see that it appears right here, my digital maturity model. So let's edit that by clicking on this button right here, because we may not want to publish it as is. So you can see that on the left, there are these multiple sections, landing page, what the landing page should look like. This is pretty optional. If you don't want to use a landing page, you can just skip this section and just link to the questions straight away. Then it's got, so this is how the landing page looks like. So what's your layout? What's the description? Do you want to show the chart on it, on the landing page, etc.? And you can obviously see a preview of what that looks like right over here. So you can edit the sections here. Do I want to show the assessment title? Do I want my banner image to be full width or original image, etc., and so on. That's where you set the options. This is an interesting one. Show the view results button is interesting because it allows your respondents to come back, click here, authenticate their email with a passcode that will be sent to them, come back and view their results, and then they can set goals and interact with you. So that's a very powerful way. Of course, you don't need to use a landing page to offer this functionality because there are other ways for your respondents to come back and enter the assessment. But this is a nice nifty way. If you don't want to create a landing page right now, you just want to have a link that you can put on your website or send out to your clients. This landing page model makes sense. And then, of course, there are some other features here. So show all rating bands. If you just click yes on this, it'll give the users an indication before they are taking the assessment as to what those rating bands are. So it'll say, these are the 3 rating bands, and this is what they mean. In addition, you can also show your dimensions for reference. So in this case, I'm not sure if you have any dimensions, but if you click here, okay, it doesn't have any dimensions here. So I'll show you how to create dimensions though. Okay, so let's get started with modifying these. So we already modified one aspect, which is to show the rating bands on the page. So this is your assessment right now. When we go up, we don't really need to make any changes to this. We want to show our profile on the bottom of the page, etc., etc. So now let's go up. And we don't really want to change the image if you want to, but for the purposes of this demo, we won't change the image, but you can obviously change it right here. Choose file, upload an image, and that will start appearing here. And you can change the title and all that also. For example, you can say my new digital maturity model, that will start appearing here, and then you can save it. So now what we'll do is we'll look at the questions. So you've got 16 questions. In our case, executive collaboration, sponsorship, etc. For each question, you can go in, you can give a quick brief description, and then you can specify the type of question. So in this case, for simplicity, it's slider, but you could make a radio checkbox, a radio or a checkbox, and you could provide options for respondents to select. So this is interesting. So when you click radio, for example, and you want to click an option, your option would be here, and then you can assign points. There are predefined 5 points over here, so 1 to 5, and you can assign points to each of the options that you want to give to the users, so that you can score them at the end and show them their maturity level. So we'll just go with slider for now. Just keep it simple. And you can obviously edit this text. So if you want, less, for example, you wanted less relevant to more relevant. So you can just edit that text and click save here, and that will show up. So let's do that. And then you can obviously do a reverse slider as well. So sometimes you might want to ask a question which scores in the reverse way. So if they are high on something, they get low points. So you can obviously click on reverse slider and achieve that. So this is how you set up questions, and you can see that there is a mapping here called map dimensions. We don't have a dimensions here, but for example, if you wanted to have multiple questions under executive collaboration. So, one question doesn't do justice. I want to have 3 or 4 questions which measures the level of my executive collaboration. So that's how you would do it. So you would go ahead, click on settings. You could go to dimensions, create a new dimension here called executive collaboration. And then what you would do is when you go back to questions, you would then select, for each question, you would say which dimension you want to map that question to. And what will then happen is you can then display your scores as per the dimensions that you set up. So instead of these 16 questions right now, which you will see on the final results page, you can divide these 16 or 20 or 25 questions into say 5 dimensions or 6 dimensions. Technology could be one, change management could be one, data could be one, and so on. Design thinking could be one, and so on. And then you could just have these questions mapped to these dimensions, and then that's how you sort of achieve a higher level of abstraction, in your assessment, in your maturity model. So this is how you set up questions, and of course, then you go to your results page. You say, what do you want displayed on your results page? So by default, it shows you the overall score, and then it shows you which of the bands you fell under. So in this case, the dummy assessment shows that I fell into the nascent rating band. It gives you a description of what the nascent rating band is, and now it shows you detailed results of where you were on each of these questions. And it obviously gives you an option to add some feedback texts for each question. So that you can do, okay, right here. We click on feedback text, and it gives you an option to set feedback text for each score. So if I were to say, if you scored between 0 and 1, I want to show you a different score. If you scored either 2 or 3, I want to show you a different score. And if you scored 4 or 5, I want to show you a different score. So personalize the feedback. You can easily do that using this screen. And it automatically picks up the feedback text that needs to be displayed to the respondent based on how they scored. So let's go back to results quickly. And as you can see, the results have been divided into these 3 rating bands. Now, how do you edit these rating bands? You click on settings again and go to rating bands right here. Very simple. And here, as you can see, I've defined 3 different bands. So I've said if somebody scores between 80 to 100%, give them the rating for mature, 50 to 80% evolving, 0 to 50% nascent. And you could obviously add more rating bands right here. And for each of the rating bands, you could give them a feedback text. And this feedback text is rich text, of course, so you can add URLs and reference materials and links to your website and so on. So right from the results page, your respondents can go to your website for more information. And then obviously, if you have another lead magnet or something else that you want the respondents to do, that's, you can do that as well. And this could also be a trigger for if you're in an enterprise and you're assessing it for your own enterprise, then this feedback text could be a way to link to the next steps. Like now that you've taken the assessment, attend our architecture forum or digital maturity forum, coming up or whatever, So I think that's the way you could do that. So let's go back to our results. And of course, on the results page, as before, you could show, there are several features here, options here. So you can show your analysis by dimension. We didn't have any dimensions this time, so we are showing it by question. But if you have dimensions, you would just click on this. And then show feedback text based on score. Of course, we'll check that. Typically, if you're giving personalized descriptions, or if you want to just get started quickly with just the assessment, you could just show the description and then keep on editing the assessment as you come back. So that's another thing. Assessment is not set in stone. So long as you don't change the basic premise of the assessment and the model of scoring, you can come back and edit any of these things. So you can edit questions, you can edit feedbacks, you can edit the descriptions and so on. The model doesn't limit you from doing that. So the first time you launch it, don't be worried that you cannot come back and edit the assessment. Here's another nice feature, show benchmarks by user profile fields. So typically in a maturity model assessment, what happens is you want to give the assessment to different kinds of people. So for example, you might give it to functional stakeholders, technology stakeholders, your legal stakeholders and so on. And, when they are taking the assessment, you can give them a screen where they can select what their profile is. And or their title is, or their function is, so architects or directors or project managers, business analysts. So you can give them that. You can even, if you're doing it for your own organization, which is a service provider, you could do the assessment by different kinds. So account managers or salespeople, business analysts, consultants, and so on. And then what this does is it allows you to quickly compare how different people are rating, which brings up interesting surprises. So for the same assessment, for the same digital maturity assessment, for example, Your business people may be rating your digital maturity at a particular level, while your technology team might be rating your digital maturity model in a different way. So you can immediately sense that there is a disconnect. Why did the business stakeholders respond differently than my technology stakeholders? And now you can try to dig in, and figure out what the sources of disconnect are. And it becomes a very nice consensus building exercise as well. If you're using the assessment for your own organization, again, of course, you can show the rating bands, etc. But here's something really important: show goal management to respondents. So if the respondents who are taking the assessment will also be part of enhancing the digital maturity of the enterprise, you can just say yes. You want to show goals management. So what happens here is, as you scroll down, you can see that for each question, right here on the assessment, you get a section to manage your goals. So if I am the director of applications in a particular functional division, and I am supposed to be acting on the assessment, then for executive collaboration, I rated 4 on 5. So why do I think the rating is only 4? Why not 5, right? And I could set up some goals for me right here. So, set up a brainstorming session. I could say that, for example, right here. And then this would become a goal that would start appearing on your dashboard and the dashboard of this particular respondent, so that they can start taking actions, and start actually progressing towards the maturity, development of the maturity. So this is a pretty powerful feature of the assessment. So that's basically it. And then you do the email capture. If you're doing it within the enterprise, you don't really need to worry too much about this. But if you're a consultant who's sending it to prospects, you might have different choices to make. So, do you want to have this screen show up before questions? There's different schools of thought on it. You can show them before questions, or you want to build some credibility. So you want to let them see the questions, answer them, and then come back and enter their email address. You can obviously make the email address mandatory. So you don't want anybody to see the results unless they provide you their email address, which is good for lead generation purposes. And then, of course, this is for spam protection. So instead of anybody coming in and taking the assessment, you might want to send them a code and say, once you provide me your email address, I'm going to send you a code, verify that, and then you can see your results. So this just allows you, headache at the back end, you're getting fake email addresses and then having them bounce and then having to correct your database. You might as well just sanitize them upfront. Of course, there are two schools of thought here. If you just want to collect email addresses, reduce the friction for your users, then obviously just let them go right ahead, instead of having them to take an extra step of validating their email before they can see the results. It's just to reduce the drop-off rates. So that's basically it. And of course, there are some other things, simple things like there's options here, so you can group your questions by dimension if you want to. You can define what your chart would look like. In this case, we selected the bar chart, but you could obviously select your polar or a radar chart. You can show the scores per dimension as well. And then here is something that you can do. So consider submissions as new after. This is important for before and after analysis. So if you're running a long-term program, you could set this as 60 days, so that every 60 days you want respondents to take the assessment, and then you'll compare the before and after results. And this is important for maturity model. Generally, you click this as yes, so show the results on a 100 scale. So just avoids the issue of you having your questions are summing up to 85, and then it becomes a little confusing. Like, okay, what does 60 or 85 mean, right? So, but you can just show them on a 100 scale. So now it shows up in percentages. So I scored 65%, or our maturity right now on this particular dimension is showing up as 70%. So how do we take it up to 90%? So it just makes it easier to compare. So I generally would click 100% on these, or scale of 100 on these, and then I automatically save. Here is where you set up the profile fields. So I've got some profile fields here, but you can set your own role, function, and so on. You can set up different colors. It makes it very easy, one single place where you can just set the colors for different things. You can also set up promotions. So in this case, if you are rewarding people for taking the assessment, you're saying get a free ebook or get a free Starbucks gift card. or an Amazon gift card or whatever it is, and you can obviously give them there. They'll see something before they do the assessment, and then after they complete the assessment, they're going to see whatever you want to show them. And finally, this is where they would redeem the offer. So click here to redeem your gift card or something, and then you can leave this promotion ongoing or just time bound it. So yeah, very nice, powerful features within the assessment. It's pretty simple. For people who are using it for clients, you can obviously integrate. So as soon as you receive an email address or somebody takes your assessment, you can send that email address over to your marketing automation system. Some of them are shown here. If it's not shown here, you can just use Zapier quickly and just send your email addresses and contact to any system of your choice. You can even email it, enter it into a spreadsheet, and so on. So Zapier is pretty powerful that way. So that's basically it. And just the one final thing on this is you can either send a direct link to people to the assessment. So in this case, it will be an evalinator.com link. Or if you just want to white label it, so you don't want people to see that the assessment is actually on evalinator.com, you can white label it. So you can create your own landing page, and then you can just use a simple one-line HTML code on your website, and now it will look like the assessment is on your website. And then you can obviously send people straight to the questions instead of having to design a landing page of your own. So if you have a home page, you have a button, take the assessment now, it'll just go up straight to start with the questions or start with the email capture page. And then, so you avoid the whole hassle of creating a new landing page for your assessment. So that's it. So what your final step would be for you to hit publish on this. And let's just make sure, for the sake of demonstration, that we don't need to validate our email, and then let's obviously keep the email address optional. And you can see, there's a button called skip this step that'll appear. So let's republish this, and then all you would do is click on this button. Oh, this is another interesting thing. So when you are logged in and you click on the assessment, you'll get this banner on top. You're taking this assessment on behalf of the respondent. So this means that if you're on a phone call with a stakeholder, you can take the assessment on their behalf, and they wouldn't need to receive the link and go through the assessment on their own. So this is good for guided conversations, first conversations with your stakeholders, very useful for salespeople when they're on first calls with their prospect, trying to gather some information. So they can just do this on the phone instead of having to send the assessment to the respondent and waiting for them to take it. So let's take the assessment quickly and see how it works out. And this is where your rating levels show up. So see how you score. Let's just answer them, so as you can see, these are all slider questions, and they're automatically progressing to the next question as you answer them. So let's just answer them randomly. And this is where your text comes up for the slider, custom text. So let's order that. Let's answer that. So technology architecture, no, that's great, and it shows you a nice progress bar on top as well. And you can go back to your questions, and see what your response was, and you can edit them, of course. So let's go back. And then this is the last question. Let's continue. Throws up this page. For now, we'll just click skip. And now it should show us the majority. So it shows us the majority. It gives me the score on top. It's out of 100 as we just set up the score. And it shows me that I'm in the evolving category. My results are 72 on 100. So I'm in the evolving stage. And it shows you what evolving means. So between 50 and 80, it's evolving. So that's why I fell into this category. And it gives me a description. This is where you can put your links, to your website, etc. This is the goals dashboard. If you have goals from different respondents, or you can see your own goals if you're the respondent. And then finally, here's where you see your results out of 100 again, and the feedback text that we had defined for people, taking the assessment. And then this is where you set up your goal. So very simple. There's just one feature I wanted to show you, which is if you go up here and let's go back to, okay, we don't have dimensions here, but not only do you see the results, if you set it up by dimensions, not only do you see your maturity model in this way, but you can also see a score of how you rated on each of your dimensions. So if we had if we had created dimensions, you would see a chart here which would say for each dimensions what was your maturity level. So it looks, it's much more comprehensive if you use dimensions. Actually, let me just bring up something and show you what that looks like. Okay, so I just pulled up the enterprise architecture maturity assessment, which had dimensions on it. So just to show you how it looks like when you have dimensions. So if you scroll down, you see that this respondent was rated on 5 levels, and they can see this on the screen. They can see the definition of what that defined level is. They can see what all the different rating levels are. And then here is where you can see the maturity by dimension. So in our digital maturity assessment, if you had multiple dimensions here, say technology, leadership involvement, and so on, you could now see based on each dimension how what is your rating. So in this case, you can obviously see that the architecture process and architecture development reasonably high maturity, but your senior management involvement is pretty low. So that means that your overall maturity, would suffer. And you can see that security and investment and acquisition strategy are actually only at level 1, which is initial. So a lot of work needs to be done here for sure. So this can be a great insight for you to say what should your next focus areas should be. So your overall assessment, of course, gives you the overall level. Say, for example, you're at level 3 right now, but within level 3, the drill down by dimensions gives you an idea what should be the next immediate step for us to improve our maturity. And in this case, it's pretty obvious you have to improve your security, and you're really doing well on data. So that's great. So that's what I wanted to show you on the assessment models. So best practice, of course, is to create dimensions and attach them to questions. So you can get this chart for your maturity model. And then the pro of that is within each dimension, you can obviously set multiple questions. So right now we had one question for leadership in our digital maturity assessment, but if you had created that as a dimension, you could then put multiple questions inside of it. So that's all. Thank you very much, and have fun creating maturity models. If you need any help at all, we are here to help. Thank you so much.